I've been a regular reader and listener for the past 5 years, ever since my son became a resident and bought your book. When he finishes his fellowship, he plans to still live like a resident, even on a surgeon's salary. Wonderful. He'll get very wealthy that way. I thought it might be interesting for you to interview someone about what do I do with all this money?
Good
Wow, what a
problems.
great problem to have. What did they do the first year they started earning big dollars? What did they invest in? Save it, pay off a mortgage. My son is fortunate. He doesn't have any student loans and he's been frugal and intends to remain frugal, but he's interested in hearing how others manage their new windfalls. Well, let's talk about this because this is hard. Everybody struggles with this, right? Especially
Yep.
if you're living like a resident. You come out of training and you have all this great stuff to spend your money on that you need to do. There's all kinds of things. So what do you say? Somebody brand new, they've got the spending saving ratio right. They're living like a resident. Maybe they gave themselves a little raise, but now they've got money. $100,000, maybe $200,000. What should they use it for?
Okay, first of all, I want to say how blessed we are to have this awesome problem. Okay, this is definitely rich people problems and awesome. Second of all, so tax advantage first is what I would say. So make sure you're filling up all of the tax advantage buckets before doing anything else, because that space doesn't come back. Every year you are guaranteed just the 401k or whatever retirement account you have access to. And so make sure you fill those up. And then we generally say, high interest debt should go. Anything that's above 10% should go. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, there's not actually a right answer to this, right? It's all about what matters to you, right? And then you go and you take care of it. You put everything in a row according to
Mm-hmm.
how much it matters to you, and you go through it until you can knock them out. And you go as far as you can until you run out of money. Maybe you don't have an emergency fund. So, okay, well, now it's time to get a real emergency fund, maybe 3 months worth of your spending. Maybe you're still carrying around a car loan for a car you bought a few years ago. Maybe you've got some credit card debt that you use to pay for residency interviews or job interviews or something. Knock that stuff out. Another high priority, if your employer is giving you access to the 401k already and they offer you a match, obviously that's not getting that, it's leaving money on the table. So that's a pretty high priority. But truthfully, most employers don't let you use the match the first year anyway. So
True.
you can use that money for other stuff.
You can't even contribute for the
Yeah.
first few months usually.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, a lot of people are saving up a down payment for a house. Even if they're not buying it right then, maybe they're waiting 6 months or 12 months to make sure their employer likes them and they like their employer. But that's a pretty high priority for most people coming out of residency, is to be saving up toward a down payment. So that might be a priority. And then, of course, all those great retirement accounts. You may have access to an HSA and a 401k and backdoor Roth IRAs for you and your spouse, and who knows what else. Your spouse probably has some retirement accounts, and maybe there's a 457. Everybody's going to be a little bit different in this regard. Maybe you want to get started with, building a real estate empire. It just comes down to your priorities, listing them out and knocking out as many of them as you can, and realize that you're going to run out of money. Even with that extra 100,000 or extra $200,000, you're going to run out of money before you get through everything you want to do. And it's actually really a sign of success when you're 5 or 10 years into your career and you've only got two things to put your money toward each year, because the mortgage is paid off and the student loans are gone and you've got an emergency fund and you're in your house and now you've only got two or three things to put your money into. But that's kind of a sign of success. In the beginning, you've probably got 8 or 10 things to spend your money on. And that's not
Right.
including, getting rid of that beater you've been driving for 8 years, or, rewarding yourself with a nice trip to Costa Rica or something, but you just got to decide what your priorities are.
The biggest thing is you got to decide, think about it really logically before you get distracted by all the things you want to buy and stuff. Sit down with your household team and write down your goals for the year. That's the biggest thing. Make your plan and then execute it. But because you're going to get distracted, you're going to want to take that trip to Italy, and you need to know that you have met your goals and your big picture, what you wanted to do for the year. As long as you've met that, you can do the extraneous spending guilt-free. But there's always going to be a goal of a good use for your money. And then an indulgent use for your money. Just make sure you write down the good uses, get those done, and then you can indulge.
Yeah. I mean, if you need like something prescribed to you that do this, then do this, then do this, then do this, we can give you that.
Mm-hmm.
Just recognize that it's not, set in stone for sure. I mean, if you had to put a list together, maybe the 401k match first, then your high interest debt, maybe then your HSA because it's triple tax free. Then if you're an attending physician, typically it's, tax deferred accounts and then tax free accounts like your backdoor Roths. But that first year you come out, you might want to do a Roth conversion. If you've had a bunch of tax deferred money that you put in during residency, maybe that's the year to do a tax conversion. So there's always ways that you can personalize it and individualize it for your unique situation. But coming up with things that you need money for as a new attending is not hard. The money just will not last through all of that stuff. And that's part of the fun of building wealth as you go along through the years is you gradually start meeting those goals. And honestly, once you've met all your financial goals, it's a little depressing because you don't have any other ones to work toward. Then your financial goals are like, well, I want to start a charitable foundation or something like that. There's always something, but it's a little depressing when the mortgage is gone, and the student loans are paid off and whatever your other goals are, that you don't get to work toward them anymore. It's a little bit of you get a little sad that you don't have goals to work toward, but it's a good thing. It's a sign of success. If you want your questions answered by the White Coat Investor, record your question at whitecoatinvestor.com/YQA or click the link in the description.
The hosts of the White Coat Investor podcast are not licensed accountants, attorneys, or financial advisors. This podcast is free entertainment and information only. It should not be considered professional or personalized financial advice. You should consult the appropriate professional for specific advice relating to your situation.